Tonight, the murder that made the nation pause.
A year later, we are still pleading and begging for laws to change.
A look back at the life of George Floyd and the legacy of his death. Plus,
policing right now is just not a profession that is viewed upon favorably.
how law enforcement is trying to adapt to the drive to defund the police. And the state of religious freedom in the East African nation of Sudan. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
One year since the police killing of George Floyd. I'm Jenna Browder. Welcome to Faith Nation.
Good evening. I'm John Jessup. A fatal police maneuver ended his life on a Minneapolis street intersection, sending shockwaves across the world and sparking passionate protests, some violent but mostly peaceful. And
now the fight has turned from the streets to the halls of Congress. CBN White House correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with more. Eric?
Jenna and John, the family met with the president today without cameras in the room. The White House saying the president wanted to have a private, real conversation with the Floyd family on this somber occasion, one that was unfortunately marked by violence as shots rang out near George Floyd Square.
Just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us, excuse us.
Scary moments in Minneapolis Tuesday after the sound of gunfire near the very spot where George Floyd was killed 1 year ago. It happened just hours before a planned festival there in Floyd's honor. But it did not derail the mission of Floyd's family, who marked the 1 year anniversary in Washington, advocating for the passage of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
We need it on Biden's desk. The Senate, we need to get this taken care of. Because just like Gianna said, your dad is going to do what?
What's his name? George Floyd! What's his name? George Floyd!
Floyd's death galvanized the world, largely because of cell phone video that, once seen, could not be forgotten. The place where it happened, 38th and Chicago in Minneapolis, now called George Floyd Square.
We really thought that my brother's death would be the last police brutality case. But as we all can see, they are at it again and again and again.
So brothers and sisters, I say as we come upon the 1 year anniversary of George Floyd being taken from this earth, we must use this opportunity to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed.
Let's get it done next month, by the first anniversary of George Floyd's death.
Biden's initial deadline has now been missed. The bill passed almost immediately in the House, but still faces GOP opposition in the Senate. A sticking point, the call to remove qualified immunity for officers. The president tweeted Tuesday, "It's been 1 year since George Floyd was murdered. In that time, George's family has shown extraordinary courage. Last month's conviction was a step towards justice, but we cannot stop there. We face an inflection point. We have to act."
In April, a jury convicted Officer Derek Chauvin in George Floyd's murder. He will be sentenced on June 25th and could face up to 40 years in prison. The trial for the other 3 officers involved in Floyd's killing is set for August. John and Jenna.
All right, thank you, Eric. With us now, Robert Woodson, founder and president of the Woodson Center and author of the recently released Red, White, and Black. Bob, welcome to Faith Nation. George Floyd never set out to be a martyr, but his death 1 year ago has certainly changed things. Of course, his family still mourning and grieving. Bob, as someone who lived through the civil rights movement and fought as an activist, how do you think history will look at the impact of George Floyd years from now?
Unfortunately, it will focus attention on the wrong issue. George Floyd's death, as tragic as it is really being exploited by people who have hijacked the rich legacy of the civil rights movement. They are focusing attention on people like George Floyd, as again is tragic. But in the course of a year, There may be of the 19 people who are killed by the police, almost all of them resisting arrest. And we're treating this as if it's a chronic problem and a pervasive problem and the most important challenge facing Black America today. It is not. Since George Floyd's death, there have been 16 children under the age of 12 who have been murdered in our streets. But you don't hear anything about those names. Like Elijah LaFrance, a 4-year-old boy in Dade County, Florida, who was celebrating his 4th birthday party when a bullet came through and killed him in front of his friends and his family. In Syracuse, New York, a few days before that, Deion Harris was riding with her mother in an automobile in Syracuse, New York, and a bullet came through and killed this 11-month-old child. And I could go on and on, but you don't hear anything about these deaths. It seems to me that the only time that Black lives seems to matter is when it's taken by a weak white police officer, and then we rally as if this is a chronic problem facing this country. And I think it's unfortunate that George Floyd is being made a martyr, naming George Floyd Foundation. And I just think it's a tragedy, and the fact that we're talking about is as if the problems facing Black America. There are 19 Blacks who are killed by white officers, unarmed Black a year. There's 6,000 killed by other Blacks. 46 on one shot in Chicago on a weekend.
All right. Robert Woodson, founder and president of the Woodson Center. We are out of time, but we appreciate you coming on this evening and offering your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, the killing of unarmed Black men has caused backlash for police departments across the country, leading officers to quit the force in droves.
Anti-police sentiment is so strong in some places, it's not only a retention issue, it's also a recruiting issue. CBN's George Thomas shows us how some departments are responding to help keep their communities safe.
It's happening from coast to coast.
Police departments across the country now experiencing an exodus of officers from the force.
From Washington, D.C., where a record 313 police officers have retired or quit since last June.
I think we're really hurtling towards a catastrophic situation here.
To Seattle, where the police chief there faces a staffing crisis after 180 officers walked off the job last year, and another 66 handed in their badges this year. And it's not just happening in big cities.
Tonight, more than half the force of a small-town police department has walked off the job in protest.
A year after the push to defund police departments and calls for policing reform, officers are demoralized and demonized. Recently, this police body cam video going viral, showing a woman berating a LA County Sheriff's deputy for pulling her over for using her phone while driving.
Do you had that picture?
You scared me and made me think you were going to murder me.
Okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Well, that's not just a feeling, you're a murderer.
The woman calling the officer a murderer numerous times before insulting him for his race.
Gas.
It's under citation, ma'am.
Here you go, Mexican racist. You're always going to be a Mexican. You'll never be white. You know that, right? You'll never be white, which is what you really want to be.
There you go, dear.
White.
Have a good day.
Policing right now is just not a profession that is viewed upon favorably by a large segment of the public.
Captain Jones, thank you for an hour.
Paul Newdigate, head of the Virginia Beach Police Department, among those facing a depleted force. The city approved funding for 813 sworn police officers, but filling them has been difficult. How many vacant positions do you currently have right now?
112 operational vacancies.
Is that a problem?
It's a huge problem, because what it forces us to do is become very reactive, because now we're running from call to call, you know, from service demand to service demand.
Newdigate spent 30 years with the Cincinnati Police Department before moving to Virginia Beach last October. In the 7 months since, 50 officers have either retired or quit the force.
The national narrative, the anti-police sentiment is, you know, there are a lot of folks that were going to extend their careers, and it's not worth it to them.
And these are folks, I'm sure, with decades of experience.
Yes. So you are losing some of our most seasoned, you know, experience, decision-making, they're out the door.
New data shows the cities most targeted by demonstrators now witnessing a historic exodus in the past year. 233 cops gone in Louisville, Kentucky, where the shooting of Breonna Taylor sparked months of protests. In Portland, Oregon, 115 officers. And in New York, 15% of the force, a staggering 5,300 officers, have quit.
Virginia Beach Police, open up!
CBN News was recently invited to the Virginia Beach Police Department's 70th Annual Academy. Recruits on this day learning various tactical exercises. A year after anti-police protests, Newdigate admits it's harder than ever to recruit and retain officers, particularly those of color.
We are not where we need to be in representing the diversity of our community.
82% of his police force is white. The national average is about 72%.
And what we're finding is, there is a lot of pressure, especially for people of brown and black, that for them not to be part of the policing profession at this time.
He says even after recruits make it through the vigorous selection process and are hired, some end up quitting weeks later. This year's academy started in January with 38 recruits. 6 of them have so far dropped out. Chief Newdigate is hoping the rest of them can make it through July. As Newdigate met with his command staff on this morning, he stressed that building relationship continues to be key in bridging the gap between the badge and the community it serves.
We have to get back out into our communities. We have to have the face-to-face dialogue. They have to see the men and women in blue as more than just a uniform or a authority figure. They have to see you as a person that's really out there just trying to be that protector of the community that we all want.
It's been challenging to do that with the pandemic, but as more get vaccinated and restrictions loosen, Newdigate is eager to get his officers back, building a path forward to better trust with the citizens they serve. George Thomas, CBN News.
Thank you, George. Coming up, questions about the origins of the coronavirus. We speak with Senator Rand Paul.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Welcome back. Now to the origins of the coronavirus. U.S. intelligence and recent news reports show workers at a lab in Wuhan, China, displayed COVID-like symptoms as far back as November of 2019.
And now lawmakers are demanding answers, with one senator telling CBN News there could be a reason top U.S. scientists have downplayed the lab theory. Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson reports.
Senator
Senator Rand Paul is becoming more and more convinced COVID-19 originated in a lab in Wuhan, and he fears China may not be the only country responsible for creating it.
NIH and Dr. Fauci have been funding Wuhan research.
Paul suggests COVID-19 spread by mistake during gain-of-function experiments intended to study the virus, conducted by a U.S.-supported group called EcoHealth.
They do it through an intermediary called EcoHealth. Interestingly, when they investigated whether this virus came out of a lab or occurred naturally, they hired the head of EcoHealth to be in charge of the investigation.
In Senate hearings,
with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect.
Dr. Fauci categorically denies those claims, although he now admits COVID-19 might not be natural.
The NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Senator Paul, however, thinks Fauci hasn't been honest with the American people.
For goodness sakes, it looks like people who had a self-interest in funding this lab were the ones investigating, and that they were trying to obscure the truth.
How confident are you that we will get to the bottom of where this virus came from?
I think China will not be helpful, but we know a couple of things. They have tested thousands of animals in that wet market. You know, the people who say this came out of nature say it didn't come from the lab, it came from this exotic wet market with these exotic animals. They've tested thousands of them. None of them have had the virus so far.
Paul believes any Americans responsible should face consequences.
The people who supported funding of gain-of-function, the creation of superviruses, the people who supported giving this money to the Wuhan Institute should immediately be relieved of their responsibilities. So Dr. Fauci should go.
Another issue Paul's investigating this week: why Planned Parenthood clinics received $80 million in loans from the Paycheck Protection Program.
I don't want Planned Parenthood to have any money. I don't think they should be getting any taxpayer dollars. I think that ultimately that money does aid and abet the killing of unborn children.
Paul says legally the company with 16,000 employees should be ineligible for the loans meant to help small businesses with the pandemic.
The Biden administration is not only not asking them to send the money back, they are actually giving more loans.
Paul will discuss the money Planned Parenthood's received during a Senate hearing this week, and he sent a letter signed by other GOP senators demanding the Department of Justice look into it. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thank you, Abby. Middle East tensions running high. When we come back, Secretary of State Blinken's push for peace and a pledge to help rebuild Gaza.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, Get the DVD, Protect Your Brain, and get it today.
Well, to the Middle East, the U.S. will reopen a consulate in Jerusalem that was shut down during the Trump administration. It will serve as an autonomous office in charge of diplomatic relations with the Palestinians.
I'm here to underscore the commitment of the United States to rebuilding a relationship with the Palestinian Authority and with the Palestinian people. A relationship built on mutual respect and also a shared conviction that Palestinians and Israelis alike deserve equal measures of freedom, security, opportunity, and dignity.
The move helps show U.S. support for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in his fight for power against the terror group Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Meantime, in Sudan, many Christians still can't believe the freedoms they're enjoying under the transitional government.
For the first time in 20 years, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has taken the African nation off its list of top religious liberty offenders. CBN's Jennifer Wishon explains why.
It's been 2 years since Sudan's longtime oppressive Islamist regime was overthrown. And during that time, the transition government has taken tremendous steps towards restoring religious freedom to Christians and other minorities. And for more on this bright spot, we're joined by the chairwoman of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, Anyarima Bargava. Madam Chair, what has led to this remarkable turnaround in Sudan over the past year or so?
We've seen the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers in Sudan, who are leading a joint civilian military government, take the steps that they promised to take, which is to basically put into place a Fundamental Rights and Freedoms Act in July 2020, which repealed longstanding apostasy law. It ended flogging for blasphemy, banned female genital mutilation, and abolish the guardianship law, among many other things.
It's truly remarkable. I know Prime Minister Hamdok recently conveyed Easter wishes to Sudanese Christians, writing on his Facebook page, "May God make all their days a feast. May they be happy, doing well, and enjoying stability." Give us a sense of how life is different today for Sudanese Christians and other non-Muslims.
You have a government that recognizes and sees the Christian community in Sudan that is opening up the space to celebrate holidays, to practice on days of religious significance, and we're seeing that churches and other religious places of worship around the country are able to operate in a way that they weren't before, to do so freely and to do so in a way that they can feel like they belong and are part of Sudanese society.
One of the laws that has changed is a ban on a female genital mutilation. What role have women played in this transition we're seeing?
So women have been at the forefront of what's happened in Sudan in terms of really leading a movement on the ground to take out the Islamist regime of Bashir that had been in power for multiple decades, and since then have really been a courageous, brave, and voice for as leaders across the country for what needs to happen to make sure that women are not persecuted and not persecuted under religious laws, that communities like Christian communities feel like they are a part of the nation.
There is certainly still much work to be done. What will you be looking for as Sudan moves forward?
There's work to be done on trying to redress the harms that Christian communities and other religious communities faced in Sudan for a long period of time. How do you actually make sure that those who had property taken away from them, who had their places of worship closed, how do you actually bring some of those spaces back to life and give them a chance to exist and be a space for people to come together? Then there's concerns about the kinds of violence that we've seen that has certainly been part of Sudanese history for a long period of time, and we're going to see that kind of violence continue, I'm sure, as it does in any country that's in transition. And the question is, what can we do to support the Sudanese government in trying to make sure that the progress that they are trying to put into place and the kind of sense of community and of belonging that they're trying to engender continues and is felt around the country.
Well, with so much persecution going on around the globe, it certainly is nice to focus on some good news. Chairwoman Bargava, thank you.
Thank you.
Ground Control is gearing up for a whole new round of recruits. We explain after this.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to cbn.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
And finally tonight, with summer around the corner, kids all over the country are itching for the end of school. And after the pandemic forced many indoors and to socially distance last summer, this year, Jenna, the camp countdown is officially on.
It is on, and for about 500 lucky kid crew members, that means blasting off to space camp.
It kind of came as a surprise, if I'm being honest, because I had submitted the application a year and a half ago.
And Space Camp is ready for relaunch, not quite in full force. Mission Control will be operating at about 50% capacity this summer. Kids from all over the country will make their way to One Tranquility Base in Huntsville, Alabama, where America's space program was born. Though safety precautions have caused some modification, camp crew members will get to experience what life is like on the International Space Station or on a mission to the moon.
Jenna, fun fact, I went to space camp when I was a kid.
Did you? Did it look like that?
I don't even remember it, to be honest. It's been so long.
How cool. They are going to have the best time, I'm sure.